Hey everybody, it's Sunday afternoon and we're in the workshop and the bench is empty today, and that's because we finished doing our latest little project. Actually, we're about what I'd say is 50 to 60% way through a cab that I'm working on right now, and it's over here. We've got it in what we like to call over in the UK sort of ghetto mode, and this is Space Invaders. So this is actually going to be a Space Invaders board, and monitor and everything, refurb into a Space Invaders Part 2 Taito cabinet. And the cabinet's not had a monitor for quite a number of years, and it's been sort of stood in a very good friend of mine's place, and he never got around to doing anything with it, so I said I'd take it off him and put it here for everybody else to be able to play and everything and start getting it fixed up. Anyway, so found a monitor. This is in the head-on cab that's going to be getting converted over to be Frogger dedicated. More about that in another video. So we've got it on the bench here running and everything, and let me just give you a real quick whistle stop tour through what we've done to the machine, to the internals of it. So I'm not going to show you the cab right now because that's been sort of stuck out the way. We'll do another video about that another day when it all goes back together and everything. It's one of the mirrored versions of the machines, this one, that it's going to go into. So that's a little, I wouldn't say it's rare, but it's not quite as common these days as the colour raster version of the game. So what we've got here is a black and white monitor. This is a Wells Gardner V1001. As you can see, when you get very little on the screen, down this edge you get like a grey band. So I'm going to do a cap kit on the monitor before it goes into the machine. So about 10-15 caps to change on it. And I've got it running here off. This monitor is actually quite unique. That it runs off straightforward 3 voltage or 240 volt mains as we have in the UK over here. So it has its own transformer on the back there, and where this little cardboard tab is here, that actually has some jumper settings underneath it, and you can set it for local voltage. So you don't need an isolation transformer to run this monitor. Hey, this is 1978 for you, not 1980 something with all these monitors that needed isolation supplies off the board and everything. I could understand why they did it. You know, you were always going to change the chassis or change the tube, but probably never the isolation transformer, so I can understand why they started embedding them into the cab. Anyway, over here we've got a Midway L-shaped series board. So, and this has got the Braze multigame kit down here on it as well, which has been applied thankfully. Now, what I've decided to do with this one is, in case it ever goes wrong, I'm going to need to bench test it. Rather than having to start ripping the entire loom out of the cab, I thought what I'll do is I'll make an adapter so that it goes straight to jammer. So you've got your connectors down here, which have got your power input and your video output, and then you've got your signal, what are these ones up here? So you've got your 12 volts input and your speaker on this side, and then this little guy here is what actually makes the board tick. It's called power on reset. Okay, and over here you've got your ground and you've got your control, so you've got your left and right, your fire, and you're playing 1 and 2 at the start. Now I don't bother with the coin hookups. The coin hookups are actually on this side, and I'm kind of debating, do I hook them up, don't I hook them up? All my games are always set as far as I possibly can to free play, and that's the way forever, for the lifetime of them staying with me, that they're ever going to be. Somebody else buys the machine off me eventually, they can add the switches themselves. I'm going to leave quite a lot of the original wiring inside the cab as original as possible. I'm not going to change much of it, just augment it more than anything, which is how I did Galaxy and a few other machines that I've rewired. So I tend not to take the original looms out or hack them up. I tend to kind of splice, just find a very appropriate point, say the power input, so I can get a 240 volt feed for the switch mode supply where I'm going to need one of those and things like that, rather than hack up the original wiring. So if somebody wants to turn it back to how it should be, they can do. Now, the only exception to this rule that I usually make for myself is the control panel, because back in those days, especially with these types of machines, they had absolutely no clue, I think, what they were going to do as far as standardising connectors. I don't even think these ones, these amp mate and lock connectors, have been invented at that point. Maybe not, I don't know. The connector that it had on here was some weirdo thing. In fact, I've got it sticking around over here. So that is the original connector, letter K. So if you had a schematic for the cab, you'd know that K was actually where it went to. Now I've left the other half of the connector in the machine, and I'm going to store this in the coin bucket and if anybody ever wanted the machine, it's there, and it's up to them if they really want to rewire it back onto it. So what I've done is there were some pins on the end of it. I've had to cut those off, and I've put a standard 9-pin mate and lock onto it. Now, on that side, the 7 pins taken out, and one of them is an earth. I'm going to add that right at the last second. I don't need it right at the second for testing. I just wanted to make sure the electronics worked and everything. So I've got all my controls there, which then go back through the loom, through all here, and over here, and over onto this jammer connector here. And the jammer connector then is mirrored. I've tried to carry the same wiring plan all the way through to the edge connector and up onto the connectors up here and here. So speaker again, speaker comes off there, comes nice little coil, and then what I've done is they'd soldered to the back of the speaker. I've put quick disconnect spade terminals on there. That's exactly what speakers have anyway. So they'd soldered on. I've just given a little squeeze so they're nice and tight. They're not going to fall off in a hurry. Certainly not under the violent bass thudding sounds of Space Invaders. So, and that's it. And then the other little thing I've done is, because I'm going to use the switch mode, the power input's off there. I have this test rig here which uses one of these 12-pin connectors, and all I've done is make a connector that's going to use the 12-pin out of this test rig power supply, and then I'll make the other half of it, which then goes to a switch mode like this. It's not actually, I don't know if it's going to be actually this one. I need to test it. This one's an out of box one, it's been used, so I will test it and scope it and things like that before I even think about using it. I have a new box one, which is probably more likely to get used for this machine. Anyway, so, well, that's all I can tell you about it up to now. Yeah, video on these things. So, video for Space Invaders isn't like video for every other colour raster game that you see, like Pac-Man and Galaxian and things like that. You only have one pin. Now, okay, you're thinking, yeah, it's black and white. No, it doesn't quite work like that. These are like standard TV sets that we used to have back in the 80s. These things take what's known as a composite mono signal into them. They'll actually, if you fed them a colour picture, they would just make it black and white grayscale. It would be quite happy to do it. There's a sync separator. So basically what you've got is down here, you've got this pink pin here, which is pin 18 on this top connector. On the top side, bottom side of the edge connector here. And that is the standard black and white connector. So that one is fed all the way through, and through this orange and black cable here, which is signal and ground, through that 2-pin disconnect there, so I can pull the thing apart at any time I like. And into the back of the monitor. I'm not going to start turning it around whilst it's on. But all that is basically a composite signal, and the reason it's called composite is because it composites together both a synchronization signal and a picture signal together into a single pin. So we're not going to go into the electronics of the waveform and how one's layered on top of the other at a different phase shift and all that sort of stuff. We'll leave that to someone far more technical. We'll give that to something like EEV Blog to explain. He's far more qualified than what I am. But anyway, but that's what it means. That's what a composite video picture is. Now, I said about what he took for jammer. Now, thankfully, and fortunately, thank you to somebody who's done this pin out on the net, and I'll put the link up to where I got the pin out from on the video. What's been done? I'm going to switch this off for a second so I can just move the board. What's been done is a little mod. Now, this isn't my mod. This is somebody else's mod. Has been done where they see these 2 orange wires here. What they've done is they've taken a sync pin and a signal pin just before they get combined into the composite section, and take them to 2 spare pins. Now, I've got these wired up here, which again go to the jammer connector here, not on the loom side that's going to be in the cab, on the jammer connector side, so I can plug it straight across onto any old test rig, or even if I wanted to, take it to a jammer cab that's vertical. And I've got it wired up, I'll turn it over. So you've got synchronization, and you've got, so I can find the 2 pins off the top of my head, through the camera, which is a little bit difficult sometimes. It's those 2, sorry, there. Yeah, those 2. So one's synchronization and one's green. So, I mean, you could actually pin all the 3 together. You could pin the green, the red and the blue together and get white on the screen. I'm not bothered about that. If it comes up green, I don't care. So anyway, I just thought it'd be a little useful picture to show you. So let's tip the board back onto its back, and let's power it back up, and let's have a little test of it. Let's hear it in its awesomeness. See if you can hear it well on the camera. I don't know how it's going to turn out. You see that little pop there? And there we go. ROM tests okay and everything. This is, like I said, the Braze multi-game kit, and there we go. And I've got it set to boot straight into Space Invaders. Otherwise, you will get a menu. I'll show you what's in the menu. What you do is you press player 1 and 2 together, and you get that menu up there. So you can go up and down. There's a few of them that seem to not actually adhere to free play mode, but hey, I don't really care about that. That's the game that I want. That and Space Invaders Deluxe, which are the two best ones on the board. Hit the fire button, and you're in Space Invaders mode. One player start, and listen to the awesome. Oh yeah, that's what we're talking about. Well, anyway, so that's it. That's Space Invaders Ghetto version at the moment, sat here on the bench. Couple of days' time we're going to hook it all up onto the cabinet itself, and then we'll have a working game. We'll do another video when it's all back in the cab, just to show you that it's back in there, because, like I say, it's the mirrored version, and some people haven't seen that with the backdrop and the UV light effect and things, and some people have only seen the colour version, which is basically like a lot of other cabs from around that kind of time. Anyway, so we'll leave it there for today, and we'll get cracking on, putting it all back into the cab, and we'll do another video soon. Please take a second to subscribe to the channel. Please write any comments that you like about the video, or any comments you have about stuff, or want to ask any questions about this video specifically below the video. And join our Facebook group, Retro Games Party on Facebook. And take care, and see you on the next video. Bye for now.